we are responsible for everything going on with us right now. If you can take total responsibility, that gives you the power to make the changes.
I'm Todd Vande Hei, CEO of Stark, and I've gone from vegan to paleo to keto to carnivore, from cryosaunas to ice baths, to training like an athlete to being injured like one, enhancing my mobility, optimizing my sex hormones with thousands of labs and thousands of scans. I'm surrounded by high-level medical doctors, naturopathic medical doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and strength coaches, all leading me in concert as a team to a state of optimal health. And I'm here to share that exciting journey with you, regardless of your age, your genes, or your medical conditions. I'm really excited about today's guest. I'm joined by someone who spends his life looking deeper into your future than your therapist ever could. His name is Jeff Gaal. That's Jeffgaal, founder of Age Code. He's a researcher in genetic lifespan modeling and one of the rare people who can explain complex longevity science without making you feel like you failed high school biology. It's always so far over my head. So he's a really cool guy. Jeff's work focuses on the genomic signatures that predict lifespan potential, not lifespan destiny, and how epigenetics, the epigenome, which is lifestyle in your environment, modify that potential over time. Nice to meet you. I'm appreciative of you being here with me. I'm really interested in genetic lifespan, so I can't wait to hear your opinions about it. Let's get right into Age Code. What does it measure?
Well, Age Code is the only test out there today that's actually measuring genetic predispositions. So what people are calling a genetic methylation test is really genetic predisposition. And those are all the cheek swab tests. So we look at over 725,000 SNPs, which is a far greater array than everyone else is doing. Now, not all of those.
Did you say 75,000?
725,000.
725,000.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Now, not all of those have been identified, validated, or more importantly, actionable. So the ones we're actually going to display on an individual's report, we want to make sure they're actionable. So, for example, what color your eyes are going to be, it is what it is. Or is the earwax in your ear wet or dry? It's again, those aren't things, but the other ones are far more important. Those are the ones we display. On top of that, we also do what's called methylation. And methylation actually measures what's going on. It measures what's called the methylone that's coming off the cells. So we're looking at what's actually going on in your cells. The reason, though, it's important is because how your genes express based on your genetic predisposition is actually controlled by epigenetics with lifestyle choices, which is what we're measuring through methylation and intracellular micronutrients. So it makes us a very unique test in the marketplace today.
I would guess it's a bit confusing to consumers, right? That there are ways to influence your genes. Most people think that your genes are your genes and that's who you are, and you just have to identify what they are and understand that that's your fate. But you're not saying that at all, are you?
No, actually, the reality is this, Todd, even though you have the gene variant, that does not mean you will have the problem. And just because you have the problem does not mean you have the gene variant. So there is a lot here, and it's really based on all the latest research over the last half dozen years or so. Actually, it's been long before, but really publicized is epigenetics, the study of your lifestyle choices, meaning what you eat, what you drink, do you exercise, where you live, how much stress you're under, are your thoughts positive or negative, are you suffer from anxiety, are you taking a bunch of medications, do you live in a toxic area? Every single one of those falls under that epigenetics menu, and that's what controls the expression of those genes.
And so what you're saying is you're in the driver's seat.
100%. But on top of that, we have to remember we don't know what we don't know. So how can we do anything if we don't understand or don't know? And that was really the beginning of why we started genetic lifespan. And the first division was age code, is let's give people a complete blueprint of what's going on in your body based on your genetics and your lifestyle choices, at least to the level that's available today. Now, we're not so arrogant to believe this is the end all be all. It's kind of like when scientists discovered, an atom, and they thought that was the end all be all. And then microscopes changed. They went a little deeper to electrons, protons, and neutrons. And then they realized, wow, that's just energy. We believe the same will happen with diagnostics. But right now, this really is the cutting edge or leading edge of that.
So you said something really interesting. Just because your genetics are the way they are doesn't mean that you'll have the outcome associated with those genetics. And you can have that outcome if you don't have the genetics. What would be a good example of that, just to bring that down to earth a little bit?
Perfect example of this is, let's say you express a few of the genes for obesity. Okay. Yet you can have those genes and you look at the person and you say, well, they're far from obese. What do you mean? It's because of their lifestyle choices. Their diet is clean. They're exercising, good positive mental attitude. And therefore, they're not obese, but they do carry those genes, okay, or those genetic predispositions. The flip side of that is, and another one we look at, is potential of gluten sensitivity. And that's a big market right now, gluten sensitivity, and it has been for a while. Well, just because you have the gene, again, it doesn't mean you have the issue. Or let's say you don't have the gene, but you have the issue. That's got a lot to do with microbiome. So if our gut health is off, we become far more sensitive to the foods we eat. Once we correct that microbiome, that sensitivity goes away. So what you said earlier, we are totally in the driver's seat. It completely resonates. That is the reality here. The problem is most people don't want to step in their power and embrace what they have or don't have. They constantly want to give their power away to a practitioner or to a healer or to their nutritionist and just say, fix me. None of this is my fault. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's from my parents or grandparents. And the reality, it is totally fixable by you with all the right mind, body, spirit choices.
Give away our power. That's so interesting. I've never really thought about it. Like, I want to push back a little bit on that. I think that people generally would prefer to believe it's not their responsibility or it's not within their power. They're not actually recognizing that I can do this, but I'm going to push it off to this practitioner, right? They're thinking this is my reality, so this person is going to have to help me, and they accept it.
Yeah, and there is a lot of talk on that. I've been in the last 30 plus years involved in quantum physics and energy medicine, and you look at today what's happening in Western medicine, for example. Traditional practitioners, and not all of them, but traditional, treat the symptom. So we are more in disease management. We're not a healthcare system. It's more of a sick care system. And that's just a reality of where we are. Then you get this movement of biohacking, which prior to that is really functional medicine and naturopaths. And, they were looking at, let's not look at the problem. Let's look at the whole body. Because we really need to look at what's going on, because everything's interconnected. And then you get someone like me who comes from more of a quantum or energy basis and says, hang on, it's not just the whole body. It also includes your mind, conscious and subconscious. And there's some, without getting religious, there's some spirit involved in there. And so you start looking at, we're multidimensional beings of energy first that manifests physically into this physical body. So I know one of the questions, as I was talking to your producer, she had asked one question about, what's that one thing that maybe most people don't agree with you on, or they don't understand, or they don't believe. And that is that we are responsible for everything going on with us right now. If you can take total responsibility, it's like changing the radio station. You don't like country and western, you want soft rock, turn the dial. Those same decisions go on in our body, and how we know this. And we go back to much smarter people than myself. Let's look at Albert Einstein or Thomas Edison. And years ago, they said our brain is the most powerful transmitter and receiver. So what we put out energetic or vibration wise is what the universe delivers back in experiences. So if you have a low vibration thoughts, guess what kind of experience is coming back to you? Low vibration experiences. The universe doesn't judge or qualify, or they just deliver whatever you're resonating or vibrating. So when I've worked with patients through the years, and I do want to qualify, I'm not a medical doctor, a licensed medical doctor, actually an electrical engineer from the aerospace industry, but I've sat with individuals, and when we talk about their health or wellness journey, where they want to go, it's taking responsibility for where they are. Even if you've been diagnosed with one of those big diseases that we all know what they are, and they're saying, how is that my choice? Well, there's a lot of things, from conscious and subconscious thoughts, but also to your lifestyle choices. And so the foods you're eating, the lack of exercise or no exercise, where you choose to live. I mean, I've been studying EMF for years, electromagnetic frequency and radiation. And whether some people say it's a conspiracy or not, there's now a lot of science showing you the effects of EMF can be dangerous to the physical body. So if it's taking things out of balance, how we process foods, how we create energy, how we detox the body has to do with those things. It has to do with genetic predisposition, and it has to do with our current state of being. So it really is a complicated on one end, but it's so simple if you say, I take total responsibility for where I am right now. That gives you the power to make the changes. See, if I'm blaming someone else for my issue physically that I'm going through, then I'm waiting for them to fix it. I take zero responsibility. It's not up to me. You give me the magic pill, the magic potion, the magic shot, the magic surgery, whatever it might be, and I'm going to be well again. Versus step in my power and take responsibility and say, for whatever reason, I've created this situation. What do I do next? Let's look at how I can make that better versus wallow in the pity me, why me? Which is, again, we were looking for actual diagnostics to give you something that's validated, diagnostic, scientifically driven, that we can say, here, let's take a small amount of your blood, let's run it through genetic sequencing, as well as a methylation sequencing for it to look at the methylone. Let's get all this data back. That's all validated. And then let's start analyzing that data. And what's that mean to you as an individual? So it takes away from that, I don't know what I don't know. I now know some things. And now I could start making better choices, better decisions. And that's really the philosophy or premise behind it all.
Let's get a little bit of backstory,
okay,
just so I can get better context.
Sure.
You have long white hair for people that aren't watching this.
Well, it's getting more white. It used to be blonde.
Welcome. I'm on the same team, but you still have it, so that's nice.
Yes.
That's nice. You sound like you're Canadian. You mentioned that you're in the aerospace industry.
Yes.
You mentioned quantum physics, and you're talking about some universe hippie type stuff right now. So walk me through that whole journey.
Well, you have a very good ear. I was born in Canada, and I was working for a U.S. firm, and part of my arrangement was they sponsored me, and I became a citizen of the U.S., and I've been working here for far more years than I lived in Canada. So I moved out in my early 20s. And so that's what brought me here. As far as my journey, obviously I was trained as an engineer, electrical engineer, and worked in the aerospace industry. And so my mind and the way I process information was unique to, each type of education experience we have tends to train the mind how to process information. So I'm a very logical thinker, very analytical, give me proof. Let's look at where we want to be and let's reverse engineer the process. So that's the way my mind works on all those areas. So as I started getting into the study of energy and quantum physics and imbuing frequencies into products and looking at the body as a multidimensional field of energy, and whatever state that energy is in manifests physically in the body. So the more out of balance the energy is, the more symptoms are registered in the body. We're just out of balance. If we can create that environment, bring us back into balance, our body's what's called autopoietic, self-adjusting, self-organizing. We can go back to that state of balance or homeostasis. So I started going down all these rabbit holes early on in my life and just really had some major awakenings of information that was really very scientific. Like I said, it goes back to Edison, it goes back to Einstein, it goes back to Tesla. So there's all this great information out there. And so I dove deep into it is basically what happened, and started incorporating all of that into working in the wellness industry, in the nutraceutical industry, or holistic. Now it's called biohacking, which is just a great marketing term, but it was all about instead of medication, what could I do based on diet and nutraceuticals and lifestyle? And so that's what brought me through all those journeys. So today it allows me to be very open, and I look for that scientific validation. But my mind is also very open that there's far more we don't understand than we understand. And so I'm open to that in those conversations, and kind of diving down and into those rabbit holes and seeing if there's something that's really there, that's valid, that can actually be used to help people. So hopefully that gives you some context to your questions.
Yeah, that's really good. So what it seems to me that you're doing is that you're bringing together the genome and the epigenome and leading people through the process of taking control of the epigenome so that they can flip the genetic switches on and off. As you've studied this and learned this, and you're a scientist and you've used the word spirituality a couple times, do you find that science and spirituality are kind of growing together?
100%.
Getting closer and closer?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's how it feels to me as I listen to and speak to and learn about various experts. And I've heard variations of that or described it differently from others, but it's sort of the same story. Where do you think that ultimately gets us as we continue to understand more and more about the human body?
Well, first off, I believe, at least for me, I believe in this life, I'm just here to remember. I think we know a lot of things already, and that's just my spiritual belief. I mean, I'm not considered a really religious individual, although I was raised under, like most people, raised under what your parents were in that religion. But, it came to the point of that there's so much more, and I believe there's some greater power out there that is guiding and directing. And so as I've gone down my journey through the years here, is a lot of it I realize is about remembering. We already have a lot of the information. That's why I tell people one of your greatest gifts is a gift of discernment. You should learn to follow it and listen to it. It will never guide you wrong. Every time I've gone away from or against my gut feeling, we'll say, where, as a man, we tend to want to think. When you hear men talk, they say, I think this, where women say, I feel this. It's two different ways of measuring or reading. So I've gotten to the point where I always go inside first and say, what's my discernment say? Does this feel right? Does this feel like there's some truth to it? And if I feel that, then I start going down that rabbit hole, and I'm constantly checking in. If I feel like, wow, this is just a bunch of hoax. I mean, perfect example. We just finished the A4M show. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Anti-Aging Academy for Medicine. It's been running for about 25 years in Las Vegas. I've gone to it for years. And this year, Genetic Lifespan had a booth, and we were introducing Age Code. Now, part of what Age Code does, we get all this data, and we actually work with algorithms that were developed by Harvard, Yale, Duke, and a couple other Ivy League schools. So we do provide you with biological age based on these algorithms, but we're measuring something to feed into that. And then we also look at pace of aging, your overall pace of aging, and then pace of aging of 11 key organ systems. So as a practitioner was walking by the booth and he said, "Oh, biological age," he says, "I've got the perfect system." And I said, "Well, I'm intrigued. I'm always interested in learning more. What can you share with me?" And he said, "You have a piece of paper?" I handed him a piece of paper and he wrote something on the paper like a number, and he was kind of mumbling to himself. And then he said, "Can I touch the top of your hand?" And I reached my hand out. He touched it and he said, "Your biological age is X." How close was I? And I said, "To what we measured as biological age, or what are you asking me?" And he said, "Yes, to what you measure." And I said, "Well, you're about 7 years off. As a practitioner, I'm trying to think how logical-minded individuals would think that you're going to tell me my biological age by touching my hand." Now, I'm a firm believer in energy, so I'm very open to those concepts. But the reality is the masses are in more of a very diagnostic type environment. We want to see that there's validated information. And it's just like there's many ways of calculating biological age today. There's one that's stretching. They measure your flexibility. Well, if they measured yours and mine and they said your biological age is lower, that tells me you're just more flexible than me, which, by the way, has some value, right? Because I'm more flexible, so that's going to affect things, but it's not scientifically. We're actually looking at all these biomarkers, methylation markers, and we're reading that in. So to me, on a scientific value system, that brings more value. Then when you have algorithms that have over 20 peer-reviewed white papers, close to 20 clinical studies on it, again, nothing is perfect. And so we all need to, at least I believe in that. Nothing's 100% perfect, but let's get as close as possible. And so what I feel we're using within Age Code, which, by the way, is a combination of about 17 different tests that have come together that we rolled into one. And then probably our biggest challenge, to be honest, Todd, was when we got our first set of results. We sat in the boardroom, myself and my partner, and we were looking at each other, and it was pages and pages of genetic codes. And we said, how in the world are we going to be able to market this? Nobody could read it. You have to be a geneticist to understand. And that took us a whole nother year, taking all that data, putting it into a readable report, and then actually from a functional medicine standpoint, making suggestions to begin to shift those epigenetics would ultimately affect your biological age and then your overall pace of aging and pace of aging of key organ systems. So it was there was some reverse engineering in there. So that's where kind of all my experience came. We have different factors, but now what we created, and based on our response at A4M, which was outstanding, more than we could have ever possibly imagined, we definitely have what one said was the gold standard. We had someone else say the Lamborghini of tests. Either way, I embrace it and I thank them for that. But we've really created something unique that gives you valuable information, actionable information. Now, whether you choose to take action or not, that's still your option, whether you want to do that or not. But at least you know something now you didn't know before. And it's all positioned in the preventative market. So it's kind of like, one of the myths we deal with is, I don't think I want to know. Here's the reality. Whether you want to know or not, you will find out. Obviously, it's going to surface somewhere. Unfortunately, it tends to surface when you now have been diagnosed with that dis-ease state, where the cost economically is far greater, emotionally is far greater, and it has a huge impact. So I'd rather know now. It's like I'm here in Southern California and I'm driving to the East Coast. And let's say I want to go to Miami, but I could get on the freeway and make just one wrong turn and end up in New York. It's the same thing with your life. And you want to fix and refine constantly. So as you retest and say, okay, these things work, but these other things, maybe I'm not doing a problem. Maybe I need to shift it a little bit more. And again, one of the big factors were there's a lot of people taking a lot of different products today, from different types of supplements to different types of therapies. You have red light, you have lasers, you have hyperbaric, you have all different devices and modalities. And I've always asked, not one is obviously, is it working for me? But number two, is it hurting me? We always have to look at those kinds of things, and kind of the American way, or we'll say the North American way of thinking is if some good, more's better. And we all know that doesn't work. Too much of anything is not good for you. And so it's all about having a roadmap, I guess, is probably the best thing for you to actually plan and make the best decisions for the outcome you're looking for.
Well, I think that is very exciting. I can relate to you bumping into patients or clients or whatever you call them that may not want to know. I can understand that. I've felt like that in the past. When you recognize how much in control you are via the epigenome of your genetic expression, I think it turns into an exciting game, an opportunity, and the other end of it. So when I think of our students, we have a range of people that's our term for patients and clients. We have a range of individuals from 13, maybe as young as 10, to 80 and 85. And the reason I picked up your Canadianness is because my parents are from Minnesota. I'm originally from Minnesota. So I can pick on some of those because it sounds similar. And they're our oldest students, and their way of thinking is very different about their potential than younger people. There's definitely I'm sure you see this with your own clients and patients. There's a difference in outlook that people have in wanting to know more about their bodies when they were younger, and there was a predisposition for older people to give away their control or freedom and trust the system itself. Have you seen that in your environment as well?
Yeah, definitely. And it also ties to culture. It's not just age, it's culture too. Because remember, a lot of what we know today is learned behavior. So where did you learn it? The first place we learn is from our parents and grandparents, our inner circle, that family. So if you were from Eastern philosophy, or even on a European basis, it used to be, your food is your medicine is your food. It wasn't write me a prescription and get a drug. It was, you're getting cold. Grandma went out, pulled some herbs from the garden, and she came in and steeped it, made it into a tea, and you drank a tea. It's a different philosophy. It's a different way of life. And culture has a big play. But you're right. Age does as well. I mean, we were taught to trust and plug in a system, and whether it was good, bad, right, or wrong, it doesn't matter. It just is. I mean, I never try and, it just kind of the process people went through. Today, what I work most on educating people on is you do have total control. I'm trying to hand you the steering wheel of your own, wellness outcome. Take it. It's yours. Only you know, and only you have total control. And it's really all over the map, to be totally honest with you. I remember when I was in my 20s, and, you think you're invincible, right? Late teens and 20s, we did some crazy stuff. And now when you get to your 40s and 50s and so on to your 60s, you pay the price for what you did in your 19 and 20s. It never escaped you. It was just delayed. And that's just the reality. And so I think people are learning. There are some that are really embracing that, even from younger generations, to those that unfortunately they wait till they're sick and then they start searching versus saying, hey, I had this information available to me pre getting diagnosed with something. I should have took it then. But again, we don't know what we don't know. So a big thing for genetic lifespan is getting the message out, educating people, giving them some options in life. Options is always great to have. We can make better decisions. And so that's our goal of what we've tried to do. And actually, we're having tremendous success doing that today.
Options. That's a really interesting word to use in conjunction with genetics, because most attribute genetics to the idea that you don't you don't really have options. It's just how you are. I think your concept is beautiful. So just to summarize, so make sure I understand your business, you're doing genetic tests and you're providing solutions that people have control over to determine which genetic switches get switched on or off.
Yeah,
Is
well, we're
Yep.
doing genetic epigenetic, and it's very
Okay.
important because everybody's out there doing genetic. And I'll give you an example. There is a well-known.
You said you're doing epigenetic tests?
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
What
Okay.
we're running is genetics and epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
And
Okay.
the epigenetic piece is all the methylation, the methylone that comes off the cell. So for example, you do a blood serum test, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And your doctor says, Todd, your vitamin D levels are perfect, meaning they're on a range of 90 to 100, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do our test, and it comes back and tells you an age code. One of the markers we show you is vitamin D, and it says you're critical low. And you're thinking, well, hang on, my blood serum says great. You're telling me I'm critical low. Which test is wrong? Well, first off, they're looking at two different things. So you need to identify what they're looking at. Your blood serum test is looking at a snapshot of what's in your blood at the moment you draw the blood. That's been there for about 12 to 36 hours. What we're looking at when we look at and measure the methylone coming off your cells, that's what's been going on within your cell over the last 90 to 120 days. So the question becomes to you, what's more important, what's in your blood or what's in your cell? Obviously, what's in the cell is far more critical, right? Just because it's in the blood doesn't mean you're using it. Well, we had a scenario with a doctor who really thought our test was off. And as we worked together and he understood the pieces, fast forward, he found out that actually his statement today is genetic lifespan saved my life. He was doing something that was giving him a false sense that he was protected and doing the right thing. And really what he was doing is causing a problem. He goes in for surgery at the end of the month to remove what happened. So literally, our test saved his life. And he was taking way too much vitamin D. He had the genetic predispositions that don't allow for the absorption or for the uptake. And he was taking too much. The pathways were clogged. He needed to detox. He needed to change the form. He needed to add a methylated folate because he also had MTHFR variants. And so all of these things were discovered by age code in one test, where for the last 40 years, and he's done genetic predisposition before. He's done tremendous amount of blood serum tests. He checks every semi-annually as a practitioner. But he wasn't seeing what our test was able to show. And remember, our test is not designed to diagnose or to treat, heal, or prevent. Ours is an informatics. We're going to give you all this great data, and these are actual biomarker measurements that your medical doctor can diagnose from, or you could use as a layman, so to speak, to make better decisions in lifestyle in your epigenetics. So when people say, oh, you do genetic testing as well, I say no. We do genetic, epigenetic, intracellular micronutrient methylation testing. They say, wow, that's a mouthful. And I say, it's because we're looking at everything compared to people just looking at a piece. And so that's what really separates us. And then your results are interconnected. So, for example, the big one is the MTHFR gene out there, which means you can't methylate folate, and therefore you can't absorb certain B vitamins. Your body can't detox properly. You have issues with homocysteine, which ties to heart disease. Once you fix the first part of that equation and you're using a methylated folate with the right cofactors, the other processes could happen. The unfortunate thing is, let's say 10 of us all had an MTHFR variant. Based on our epigenetics, we're displaying things and expressing it differently. So how can you treat everybody the same way? You can't. It's just like one size fits all in the vitamin world. When people are trying to make suggestions based on genetics, it's still one size fits all for that genetic variant. What we're saying is, hey, you got to tie in lifestyle, which makes everybody different, which is really what we're looking at, because we are all unique and we all have different choices in our life and different circumstances, and we should be treated. This is where, when you hear the term personalized wellness, or doctors use personalized medicine, what age code is? It is a personalized set of informatics designed strictly for you and your choices in your life, along with your genetic predisposition.
So using the medical doctor as an example, it was a problem for him, right? You solved a problem for him. What about opportunistically speaking? Can you give me examples or theorize around how to take someone from where they are in a healthy state to where their potential is?
Definitely. Imagine an athlete, for example. And some of these athletes today are paid tremendous amounts of money, depending on the sport you're in. Part of what we display is what type of exercising is better for you based on your genetics and how those are expressed epigenetically. So different types of nutritional values or nutritional requirements that you need, combined with the type of exercise. So imagine, as an athlete, also, it's not will they get hurt, it's when they get hurt. How do you rehab them? Knowing this information would allow you to create a customized rehab program specifically for that athlete, of everything going on with them. So on an opportunistic end, that's where you begin to look at things. Even if we dive down into the world of peptides. Now, some people think peptides are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Others have different opinion. The reality is many people have jumped on the peptide bandwagon. And we believe there's a place for peptides through practitioners. Let's do it properly. They're the ones who are licensed. They're the ones who should be diagnosing and prescribing and monitoring, and that's that world. But what if we could provide you information of what would be most beneficial for you? And that's what we have by combining our report, passing it through a peptide-specific AI that could come back and tell you, based on everything about you, your blueprint, what could be best for you, and then you work with a practitioner. Now, some of the things I've seen with people using peptides, because they've done our test already, and from the outside, they look amazing. They look like they're in perfect health, perfect condition. But on the inside, not so amazing, because things are going on. There's some factors. You need to have the right nutritional buffers. So it's kind of like running nitric oxide in your combustion engine. You have to be careful. You might be able to run it once, maybe a second time, but unless you're in a high-performance vehicle, you can't do that. It'll burn everything up. Well, guess what happens when you don't have all the nutritional buffers in your body? Same thing's happening. It affects metabolic systems. It starts affecting inflammation. All these things are negatives, Inflammation is inflammation. You want to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is the number one cause of most dis-ease states. So you don't want to create more inflammation in your body. You want to reduce the amount of inflammation. So it's giving you, no matter where you are health-wise, if you think you're at the perfect pinnacle of your health, there's benefit for our test. If, unfortunately, you've been diagnosed with some form of dis-ease state, and we get a lot of those people too, saying, can you please help me? I don't know what to do. There's nothing the medical world could do for me. And it's like, well, let's just give you some information maybe you didn't know. Maybe you can do some lifestyle things that actually can have a profound impact over time.
Now, this is not intended to be a commercial, but I'm personally interested in what you're talking about in regards to essentially the bridge between the lifestyle choices influencing the epigenome, influencing your genetics, and how much control you actually have. What does the process look like in engaging with your company for patients?
It's a very simple process. You are provided with a link, and you just go on that link and you can order your test. It is an at-home. You're not required to go to a doctor to do it. Even though we talk about blood, there is no needle. There is no phlebotomist, no IV type experience. We have a very unique device certified as a medical device in over 100 countries that fits onto your upper shoulder.
Like, what does it look like?
Okay, Todd. So this is what we have. When you order the H coat, this comes in the mail. So it's in a padded envelope because the box itself will have a return label on it for you to ship it back, a FedEx or UPS label. So when you open the box, you're going to have a little card here with a QR code. You scan that code and there's a little 2-minute video that shows you how to do the test. So you could watch it over and over and over if you want. It comes with a little heating pad. It comes with a Band-Aid. And it comes with an alcohol swab. Along with that is the test device itself. It's a little round device, almost look like a large continuous glucose monitor. And then there's a little vial. The vial hooks onto the device, the blood extraction device. And then there is you pull off the backing. It's a little sticky. And so what we want to do is you want to heat up your upper shoulder. Okay. So really what we're doing is drawing the blood to the surface. Okay. We're just taking that surface blood. So it's kind of like you got pricked by a thorn bush and your finger starts to bleed or your arm bleeds. This creates that little surface blood. That's what we're working with. Then you wipe it with a little cotton swab to make sure there's nothing on it. And so you have a red square on your shoulder. Obviously, the blood's on the surface. You hook up this device, push the little red button, and a little lancet will go out and come right back in. It only goes out once, and it makes a little pinhole in the arm. The device then is like a suction on your arm, and it's literally like sucking out a little bit of surface blood. It's only taking a very tiny amount in the tube. Now you take the tube off, you put the top on. We have a little plastic bag in here that you put the tube in, and you put that back in the box it came in. You seal it. There's a little seal up top. You close it, seal it. You drop it in FedEx or UPS, whatever labels on it. In about 4 weeks, you'll get your email that says, "Congratulations, Todd, your H code results are ready." Log into your back office. So what we set up for you is a HIPAA-compliant encrypted back office that only you have access to, nobody else. And that's where your results are uploaded. So you have a dashboard that you can go through it, or you can generate a PDF. And that PDF is about between 110, 120 pages, depending on how healthy or unhealthy you may be. And then you could share that with your nutritionist, your health coach, your biohacking doctor, your regenerative, integrative medicine doctor, or anyone you want. It's your personal data. And part of this, what we do, which is so exciting, because when you say 120 pages, people are like, whoa, especially doctors are like, I don't have time to review all that. So here's what we do. We create from that 120 pages, we create about a 10 to 12 page summary. It summarizes your whole report and talks about how the genetic predisposition and epigenetics are intertied and working together, as well as your micronutrients, intracellular micronutrients. And then what we do is we create a 1.5 page summary from that, which is the 5 most actionable things you need to work on. And that's put at the front of the test. So that way, when you get your test results, you move to the second or third page, and there's the 5 most important things Todd needs to work on right now. If you say, well, I need a little more detail, I don't want to read 100 pages, but can I get a little, flip to the back of the book, and it's going to give you that 10 to 12 page summary. And then if you're one of those people that just loves data and you want to drill down, you've got the 120 pages that you can review and go through. We even tell you the algorithms we're looking at. We tell you the biomarkers that are being reviewed as we look at each pace of aging of each organ system. So think of this. Think of the red lights on your dashboard. You're driving down the freeway and the red light comes on, you look and it says engine temperature. Okay. The car doesn't stop. The car's still driving, but you have the choice. I'm going to take the next exit, or I'm going to go pull off and get to a gas station or a garage and see what's going on. Or you could say, I'm good. I'm just going to keep driving. And then you're going to get the next warning, which tends to be a little bit stronger. And then ultimately the engine dies, right? So think of when we're giving you pace of aging of organ systems, these are like dashboard lights coming on. So when you see that your cardiovascular system is optimal, your liver's optimal, your immune factors are optimal, but your kidneys are aging much faster. That's like a warning light. Now, we're not diagnosing anything. We're just telling you our test is measuring something's going on to cause your kidneys to age faster. But we tell you all the biomarkers that is being looked at. So then when you talk to your doctor, you can say, hey, what's this information mean? What other diagnostics can you do for me? More from the practitioner standpoint. You also flow down, you see, oh, wow, my immune system is aging much faster. Well, it tells you the biomarkers, and there's things that affect your immune system. So these are kind of those red dashboard lights. This is that prevention thing I was talking about. Don't wait for the engine to die. You've already been given the warning light. Let's go look at what that means. But that's not us to diagnose that. That's the relationship between you and your doctor. We've just given information no one's ever known before. So that's what it becomes. So our test is fully home or office, no doctor required to do it. Obviously, you're going to share your results with whoever you'd like to share your results with. Now, we have additionally added something called Age Code Essentials, and those are all your traditional blood serum tests. They're at home, cash pay tests, because once you do age code, you may say, I want to drill down. Maybe I need to look at my hormone panel, or maybe I look at a cardiovascular or lipids, or I want to do some additional diagnostics. Those are your traditional blood serum. We just do them as an at-home test. So you can also order those as well and then get those. And again, that's meant for you to review with your doctor, those results, because they're the one treating you at that point in time.
And that's the same process with the thing on your shoulder instead of the phlebotomist?
It all depends. Some things require more blood. Like if you said, hey, I'm really worried about heavy metals, and, I know my age code report showed me that I have some issues there. I want to run a full heavy metal panel. That requires, in some cases, a couple vials of blood. You can't do that with our age code device. So we have a patented blood card that we use. And then on the larger blood draw, that may require you to go to a facility to actually get that blood drawn. And again, it all depends diagnostics wise, how much of your sample is required in order for them to give you those markers, those biomarkers.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating stuff.
Very exciting, truly.
Yeah. And how old's the company?
We started the company in the fall of 2022. It's actually when my partner called me and he said, hey, I have something I want you to take a look at. He said, what do you know about gene and cell therapy? And I said, I know some, and it's exciting and growing. He said, I need your expertise to take a look. We met. We looked at what he was introduced to. I said, I think this is exciting. Let's do it. And so we started a journey. It was over 3 years, over $1.5 million was invested of personal monies. We validated, created the science, created your report. We did marketing. We did all the legal. And then we said, let's take it to the market. And so for 3 years, we created it. About 6 months ago, we started marketing it and age code. And we're now rolling out our first living gene product. We have another division of precision nutraceuticals that are designed to work on a foundational basis, a half a dozen products that will move those dials, reduce biological age, pace of aging of organ systems. And then we also worked on a division to bank your immune factors, the first immune cell banking opportunity. And why would you want to do that? All these gene and cell therapy treatments going on out there, you require a minimum amount of viable immune factors. We will ensure and guarantee that we bank them, freeze them cryogenically while you're healthy, because most people need them when they become unhealthy. And obviously, when you become unhealthy, whether it's some dis-ease state, that's normally compromised immune system. So we want to get your immune system when it's healthy, so you can use that for future gene and cell therapy treatment. So it's created this whole model of different divisions to support that entire wellness journey or wellness outcome.
Sounds so interesting. How about practitioners? Certainly the ones that are in our demographic. They rely on experts for everything in running their business and their personal lives, whether it's financial support or marketing or legal, human resources, and then for their bodies, they've got a team of doctors, including us. Working with doctors, do you find, are they educated enough? And do you have systems in place to bring them up to speed on such concepts?
Sure. Well, it's really all over the board, as you can imagine. Some are trained with, what's your symptom? Let me prescribe something, and that's it. That's what they know. That's what they do, and that's what they've been trained. Others are at a different place. So our market has been, because we do market through doctors, practitioners, that was our first entree into the market. Because think about it, that regenerative integrative doctor, they already have hundreds of patients looking for what we're providing. So why should we try go find the individuals when the doctor already has them all? So we market this through practitioners. It is a simple affiliate program, so they become a free affiliate. There's no cost to them. There's no requirements. There's nothing like that. It's just they enroll and they're one of our practitioners. Now they could purchase a test at a wholesale amount, and they could bundle and sell it to their patients. And if they're selling you a $10,000 or $20,000 treatment protocol package, they just bundle it in there. We don't care what they sell it for. That's their business, and they could do whatever they want to do. But they already have those patients. The other model is they can, if they say, I don't want to have tests in the office, I just want people to order them as needed. They have a link, and those patients go to the link. They just buy it. We ship it direct to them. If they want to bring it to their doctor's office or next visit and do the blood there, whatever that doctor would like to do with them. But the ones that are educated and understand, say, areas of regenerative medicine, integrative, or they're biohacking type docs or naturopaths or functional medicine doctors, they love what they're doing. What we're doing. They understand. They didn't realize all the capabilities were there. And now they're like, wow, okay, let me see. I need to understand it's validated, and how soon can I get started? So part of what we were doing at A4M is doctors coming and saying, hey, I want to buy 10, 20 tests for my practice to get started so I can start putting patients on right away and, really finding out the best ways to help them, because there's far more information. So doctors are a massive opportunity, and a lot of them are really looking for what else can I do to help my patient. And those are the docs that we're looking for, the ones that really are in that mindset. And so we could support them.
What's the cost of your primary lab kit that you ship out that you explained at the beginning?
H-code is a division. That test is called H-code Premier. That is the genetic, epigenetic, methylation, intracellular micronutrient. It's all one test. Shipping back and forth, blood draw. There's no hidden costs. Now, if you were to go do traditional diagnostics, blood serums and different diagnostics to come close to what we offer, it's about $17,000 worth of testing. And by the way, since it's all preventative, that's not insurance, right? That's cash pay. We do everything for $1,799, $1,799. And we set it up where if someone becomes a free member, they can actually get it they save $300 and they get it for $1,499. So it's a massive set of information, tremendous value proposition. And then when you retest, because now with us, you retest after 6 months or so to see whether what you're doing is working. That test no longer does genetic predisposition because that's a once in a lifetime one, but we met your genetics and methylation again and then show your micronutrients. So that test is somewhere around $800 to $900. We're just finalizing the pricing on that now, and that would be your retest. And then we do have another optional test, which is more on the medical end of things. It's called a pharmacogenomics test, or PGX, and that actually looks at drug pathways. So it's going to tell your practitioner the safest and most effective drugs for you based on those pathways. I believe personally, anyone who's prescribing a medication is doing a massive disservice if they don't run a PGX test on their patient. I mean, how many times have you heard a friend or maybe even yourself, hey, your doctor says we got to put you on some high blood pressure medication. Now, we're going to try this one because I get the best results with this one, but we're going to have to monitor you closely. And then you're on a second one. Then they take you off the first and add a third one. And they're really trying to figure out what's going to give you the best results. A PGX test covers about 99% of that. So again, one-time test, you're only going to do it once in your life because that's never going to change, but that will help your doctor to prescribe the best medication for you.
That sounds fascinating. Thanks for sharing that last bit. Before we wrap up, we're running out of time. I'd like to just get a sense of where you think your part of medicine is heading. What's the next idea, concept, theory, possibility that you're the most excited about?
Probably the fact that everything that may ultimately happen to you is preventative, and that data already exists. You just need to know where to get it. Thing is, this morning I just had a Zoom with a group in Europe, and they've developed something so amazing in the world of cancer and finding out beforehand, long before it actually manifests into full-blown situation. And that science is there. That's what makes me excited. The more I look at things, the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you realize there's so much more, and people just don't know about it. And so we're looking at how can we be that company that is really bringing you the latest and greatest. And I'm going to package everything under informatics. We're going to give you information to make better decisions and to even help you working with your own practitioner, giving them information they didn't even know existed. And so that's what makes me most excited. Right now, we have tremendous breakthroughs going on. When I look at the U.S., we spent $5 trillion in healthcare last year, yet we rank 40th in the world. We are a sick nation right now. And in order to change it, I believe you got to break it to fix it, because sometimes it's not fixable, right? You just got to blow it up type deal, break it, and let's start over. And I believe there's no better place to put your wellness outcome than back into your own personal hands. I'm all about people standing in their power and empowering themselves. And that's exactly what I feel we're doing every day when we're sharing genetic lifespan and age code.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If our listeners want to find out more about you and your company, where can they best find you?
I'd be more than happy to share my contact number. It's 949-254-3624. Or if you want to learn about the test, you can go to agecode, agecode.bio.bio/healthspan, HELTHSPAN. All the information is there, but text, call, and I look forward to answering any questions too.
Any social media that you're on? Anything like that?
I'm on under my name, Jeffrey Gaal. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Genetic Lifespan itself has channels on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. And so you're welcome. I invite you all to follow us there. We're constantly providing either static or video information on latest and greatest discoveries. And so would love you to stay up to date with all the exciting things we're doing.
Awesome. More specifically, Jeffrey is Jeffrey, and Gaal is Gaal, just so they can track that down a little bit easier. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it, Jeff. It was very cool and fascinating topic. I'm really into it. And for our listeners, if you'd like today's podcast, go ahead and click like and subscribe. And if you'd like to learn more about Stark, you can find us at stark.health. That's stark.health.